Well, here are 7 companies that are actually giving back, okay, to Black communities. So first we have Tonic. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the CBD brand called Tonic. Not only do they sell an array of products, skincare, and all that stuff, but they're actually giving back to a cause called the Purpose Program, which was founded in March 2019 for Pride Month. Really like that organization and like what they're actually doing. They put in almost $60,000 or donated almost $60,000 to a variety of nonprofits to actually help the Black and Brown communities. And so I really like that. And then there's Visito. It's actually an LA cannabis brand. They actually make those little mini joints and all this, but they actually partnered with Equity Finance Alliance, and it's a nonprofit that aims to repair the damage that was done from the war on drugs. And then there's Justice Joints. Alexis, have you ever heard of Justice Joints? I want a Justice Joint, okay? But there's Justice Joints, and it's really, it was designed by the California-based company called Cannabis. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's to help those incarcerated on marijuana-related charges, and it's to help them get out of jail. And they also actually partnered with the Last Prisoner Project. And then there's Limon or Limon. I like the fact that Limon really helps out the national bailout. They had the national bailout event. It is a Black-led organization that's working to free Black people who are currently behind bars. The founder is Bianca Monica, I think, and really like what they're doing over there. And then finally, there's something called Cookies. Have you guys ever heard of it? I never heard of Cookies, but for whatever, all intents and purposes, there's a company called Cookies, and guess what? They provide training, education, and then I also like they have resume creation. They have resume reviews and mock interviews to really prepare Black and Brown people to, re-educate them and get them into the industry. And then there's Gossamer. I hope I'm saying that right. Gossamer. All right. Anyways, they actually create or produce consumable cannabis products, and they're also known for their publication under the same name. Now, they're actually giving back to Black and Brown communities as well. You know, when I found out about these companies and the fact that they're a part of so many different nonprofits and have supported different nonprofits that are minority owned in the cannabis space, I just couldn't wait to share that information with you guys, because I think it's really important for us to know that there are companies out there that's willing to help and willing to give back to Black and Brown communities. And then next, racial disparity in cannabis arrests. We all know that African Americans are arrested for violating cannabis possession laws at nearly 4 times the rate as whites, yet both ethnicities consume cannabis at roughly the same rates. Now, a 2021 analysis of cannabis-related arrests in 2020 in New York City's 5 boroughs reported that people of color, now mind you, this is in 2020, people of color are still being arrested at 94% rate. Are you kidding me? In New York. Like, New York, you need to wake up already, all right? And then we have the Senate in, you guys, in Hartford, Connecticut. Okay, so the Senate passes a marijuana legalization bill, but Governor Ned Lamont, who's also, by the way, a Democrat, threatens to veto it. In fact, he says this. He was arguing that it opens up the industry to tens of thousands of people who previously were ineligible to get priority licenses. What's up, Ned? What you mean by people? What you trying to say? Don't speak around us now. Let's be clear. Say what it is that you mean, okay? So that's my question for Ned. What people are you talking about, bro? Seriously. Alexis, I'm gonna pass it to you for the next 3 highlights. You are on mute.
All right. Sorry about that. So, murder case involving Oklahoma cannabis entrepreneur highlights issues of race and security. So, LaRue Bratcher, 34-year-old Army veteran, was at his cannabis grow operation in Oklahoma City on May 24th, 2020, when an alleged robber attempted to break in for the second night in a row. Bratcher then shot the intruder, killing him. Unfortunately for Bratcher, he was unable to renew his grow license due to $100,000 of warehouse renovations. He was operating illegally and was charged with a felony, and his plants, valued at $1.5 million, were confiscated. With a felony charge, he was then unable to use any self-defense or stand your ground clauses. Those were all inadmissible. Now, over a year later, LaRue still is waiting trial for first-degree murder, and that trial is scheduled for October. So this case does have many questioning whether the situation would have been looked at differently if the tables were turned and this was a white business owner shooting a black intruder. Next, we have last Thursday on the.
Wait, Alexis, let me stop you. So was Lamont, was he black? What's the guy's name?
Yes, so LaRue Bratcher.
So he's black?
Yes.
And so he shot someone who was breaking into his illegal cultivation.
Right. And the only reason, though, that it was considered illegal is he did have a license, but due to so many circumstances and, it just isn't an example of why everyone in the cannabis industry, especially people of color, really need to make sure that they are getting everything in compliance. Yeah. So unfortunately, he's not even able to plead self-defense in this really unique and troubling case. So I definitely would look into that. It's in Oklahoma market. So next, last Thursday, on the 50th anniversary of Nixon's declaration on the war on drugs, the Maine House of Representatives approved a bill to decriminalize possession of all illicit drugs. So if passed, it would make possession of controlled substances for personal use punishable by only a $100 fine without the threat of jail. And that fine could also be waived with the completion of a substance misuse assessment and course. Representatives Charlotte Warren and Ann Perry both made statements with a stance that this is a way to help treat addiction as a disease and stop criminalizing people for a symptom, hoping that this leads to rehabilitation instead of jail time, which typically does lead to more negative outcomes. And lastly, as we all know, President Biden signed off on Juneteenth last week, becoming a federal holiday. The vote was passed in both the House and the Senate. Interestingly, though, 14 members of the House did vote against it. Missouri Representative Cori Bush did release a very powerful statement that I'd like to read. She said, "As we officially make Juneteenth a federal holiday, we continue our fight for true liberation. While slavery in its original form has ended, Black people in our country are still chained, beaten, abused, arrested, and targeted and detained at a disproportionate rate. Our history continues to be whitewashed. Our communities continue to be underfunded and overcriminalized. Freedom is not simply intended to mean freedom from enslavement. Freedom is an affirmative act, an affirmative goal. It is one that promises liberation, safety, and peace of mind. It is a promise of a full, prosperous, and joyous life. Yes, we need Juneteenth, but we also need reparations. We need to end police violence and the war on drugs. We need to end voter suppression and protect access to the ballot. We need to teach the truth about white supremacy in our classrooms, and we must prioritize Black liberation in totality. Only then will we truly be free." So that was Representative Cori Bush of Missouri. So she put it very...
I'm glad she added that piece about reparations, because to me, first of all, Juneteenth should have been a federal holiday a long time ago. Let's just be clear. But reparations should have happened a long time ago as well. And so honestly, I'm really glad that she threw that piece in there, because I understand the celebration of freedom. I get that. I understand the celebration of Independence Day for Black people. But I don't understand the fact that we still have to fight for reparations when there are other ethnicities out there who have been paid reparations. So I have a huge problem with that. So, I don't like to settle for what we've been given, if you will, right? And that's why it's so much, what do they call it? Civil unrest and all this other stuff, is because, hey, who's going to listen? You need to listen, you need to make this happen, and you need to make it happen today. know, so back to you, Alexis. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I had to
I
do
agree.
some
I agree.
really juicy news topics. Thank you.
Yeah, well, coming up next, we're going to talk to our special guest, Seun Adedeji, the founder and CEO of Elev8 Cannabis. We're going to learn more about his cannabis story and get his perspective on social equity rights after these messages.
Hi, my name is Monica Gray.
Kimberly Cargile.
My name is Seun Adedeji.
Even though I've been a member of the National Cannabis Industry Association for the last decade, this year, I moved up my support and my membership to the Evergreen tier.
With the help of NCIA and being an Evergreen member, we believe that we could push this agenda forward.
Banking's always been my number one issue. Payment processing has always been a huge issue, cash payments. But now that the cell phone companies are getting involved,
we need to make sure that we get minorities and African Americans, people that have been affected by the war on drugs, indigenous people, brown and Black people holistically needs to be a part of this conversation.
It is so amazing to have a group like NCIA that has my back. Let's get you in front of these senators that don't know what it's like.
And as the best of the best, and we want to make sure we have a voice as cannabis legalization is moving forward.
Government relations and advocacy directly affect the bottom line.
Really getting to the table as a small business member to making sure that the small business member, small business owner gets a voice at this policy table.
Part ensuring a smooth transition into federal legalization and regulation for our legacy industry here in California.
Realizing that no one's going to fight for you like you can fight for yourself, I decided to take NCIA's support in joining this tier of focusing on policy.
We need to come together and push for this agenda.
It is critical that our industry steps up and engages.
We need to make sure that our voices are heard.
We have the support of NCIA by joining the Evergreen tier as our lobbying firm for us, the little people.
Cannabis business owners, entrepreneurs that really see the bigger picture to say, let's push this agenda forward. We can't do this without you.
It is so difficult to run a business and be a small business owner in this space, in this cannabis space.
I encourage you to join me and become an Evergreen member today.
We need your help.
Join the Evergreen tier and fight.
We are back with Seun Adedeji, the founder and CEO of Elev8. He is the youngest African-American man in America to own a cannabis dispensary. He's been on the front lines of legalization process in multiple states and brings significant commercial real estate experience to Elev8 as a real estate investor and a landlord. He's been featured in Leafly, Mary Jane, and Wisconsin Watch, and serves as the cannabis czar for the Black Chamber of Commerce, and sits on the board of the NCIA. Welcome to the Cannabis Minority Report podcast. It's really great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Alexis and Khadijah. Thank you.
Of course. So you want to just give us a little bit of background on your journey into the cannabis industry?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Seun Adedeji. I'm the founder and CEO of Elev8 Cannabis. I'm originally from Lagos, Nigeria. Migrated to the United States at the age of 5, moved to Chicago, Illinois. Growing up, we didn't have such a holistic home, so I was just a hustler. I was a guy shoveling snow, raking leaves, selling gum and candy at school, whatever I had to do to really make financial, and I did that. I then later on upgraded myself to selling cannabis at a really early age. There was more, profits to be made, and I got arrested at the age of 13 for marijuana possession. Pivoting, it was a life-changing moment for me personally, and I moved to Texas. While I lived in Texas, I looked at changing my life and turning things around, really focusing on my education. Lived with my auntie. She was the first woman ever to show me unconditional love, and we went to church more more than ever before in my life. So my auntie, I'm talking about Wednesday night vigils, whatever church program was going on, we were there. So it was a fun experience living with my auntie. She was a great woman. Later on, I moved to Washington State. While I was in Washington State, I saw cannabis legalization unfold right in front of my eyes. I was really young, and I had a corporate job at the time. I was affected by cannabis, and I looked at how can I get into this emerging industry. I saw the revenue that big corporations were making on a daily, monthly basis, and it was mind blowing to me because the state of Washington had like a open source data. So if you can look at revenues that the cultivators, retailers are making and generating. So that really motivated me more to say, you know what, we've been wrongfully arrested for marijuana possession. This is a great business to be in. And I started my journey. I got rejected for about 2 to 3 years in this process. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. You need about 1 million to 10 million in some cases, even more, depending on what aspect of the cannabis industry you're trying to get into. And for me, I was looking at retail. So we needed $1 million to get our business open. Washington State was a lottery state. We didn't win the lottery. I was scared. I was nervous. I was like, oh, I'm too young. Can I do it? I don't have 1 million. How am I going to get 1 million? What? Oh my God. Just so many things. I was self-defeated before I even started just looking at the laws, reading the laws. And so I finally mustered up the courage and the strength to say, you know what? If I failed, but I failed fighting and swinging, and I failed, and it was not failure, it was lessons. And I used to ask myself, why am I scared to fail? And I finally realized I was listening to Gary Vee one day, and it gave me the realization I wasn't scared to fail. I was scared that my friends were going to laugh at me saying that, hey, I knew you couldn't make it. And that was what was scary. It was not failure, because anybody can fail. But it was just the people in your group or your surroundings making fun of you. That was the scariest part for me personally. And I kept working and getting rejected, but getting back up. And we opened my first dispensary in Eugene, Oregon. I pivoted to Oregon after we didn't win in Washington State. And we're here now. We're a multi-state operator. We have locations in Massachusetts. We're growing, we're building. We are helping different states write their social equity bills. We lobbied in the state of Illinois for real estate to be removed as a criteria to get minorities into the cannabis industry. We also lobbied for the revolving loan using a percentage of tax revenue associated to help minorities that have been affected by the war on drugs. And just not even that, a lot of people don't even want to get in the cannabis industry. So what we lobby for is just like, hey, let's use some of those funds to help the communities. And I think Illinois has done a really great job in that regard. I wouldn't say the licensing process has been my favorite part, but in that regard, giving back to the community that have been mostly harmed by the war on drugs, that I give them kudos for. So kudos to them on that. And Massachusetts, real quick shout out, one of the best social equity programs out there. Shalene Title, she's crushed. Hoffman, they're trying their best, and I respect that.
Wow. Beautiful. Well, my next question was, what were some major challenges you experienced and how did you overcome them? So you kind of touched on that, if you have any others that you want to bring up. But I also remember hearing you talk about when you had to, get investors and looking for those because you were looking for long-term investors. Do you want to touch on that as well? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, getting an investor, especially as an African-American man, we're scared. We're scared, and sometimes it was ego. Asking for money. We feel like, oh, we should already have money, or we don't even know the terms. Or me, I can only speak for me. I didn't know what would be the best route to go to get this money, right? I had this idea, but how do I even evaluate my company? Then how do I explain and justify the evaluation I'm placing on a company that has not even yet generated revenue? Right? Is that crazy or not? So I think a lot of time is just really educating us ourselves on what is possible. How are these tech companies going out there raising millions and millions of dollars, and their technology is not even out yet, but they're they're going out there raising millions. So, I have a better knowledge now, but in the past I didn't. So what I did personally was I saved up every penny and dime I had to my name. I called friends and family that would listen to me. And a lot of them, everyone said no. So what I did was I used my own personal money, credit card, and I won the license in Oregon. So when I won the license, I decreased a lot of the investor risk associated to whether or not they should invest. There was not the question. I already had the piece of paper. I had properties. I had the ability to start selling. So it was an easier sales to them. And I think a lot of people take things personal. You cannot take things personal in business. You have to understand the other person is looking out for their best interest. It's not a charity. You're looking to make money. They're looking to make money. Like, try to find a win-win situation. And you also have to understand, what are you willing to give up? You can't just ask for something for nothing. You can't get something for nothing. You have to understand that a lot of these banks, big corporations, they're looking to win. Whether you understand what an invisible capital is and you leverage invisible capital, whatever that looks like, just make sure you educate yourself on the organization you're looking to raise money from. What do they stand for? What are their core values? Do you align with that? Because not all money are good money. There's some money where you become the slave, like, you legitimately mentally are. You're not happy within the organ. You can't make decisions within your organization that or feel is right to move your organization to the next level. But because you have different people that their core values don't align with yours, but you took their money and they're majority shareholders of your company. So they don't care about like what is right or wrong. They care about the bottom line and how you're going to make their money back and more. So, things like that, you really have to sit back and consider that. Everybody wants to get rich fast. It's not like, I tell people it took me 7 years to be here. So I worked my, tail off for 7 years, where I used to sleep in my shop for a whole year. For the first year in business, I worked from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that was just the business hours. This is not like closing the shop and doing the books. I used to tell people I was a COE. I was the chief of everything. Legitly had to do everything. Like, I didn't have no backers. The backers were myself. And a lot of people would say, I have to wait for this to be right in order to do this. Or this is my business plan and I'm going to get here. And a lot of times they don't even start with the first step. And they're already talking about step 50. I'm like, bro, it's a gradual step. You have to take things a step at a time. So that's what we did really well. I knew that we were not heavily capitalized. I was not ashamed of it. I took what we had and I made gold.
Yeah, you did. First of all, I love that you also had quoted Gary Vee earlier, and I love his mentality, but also, like you said, you can't self-sabotage yourself and find people that align with you. So thanks for bringing that up, because a lot of these people are predatory of social equity applicants, so you got to be very careful. So great words of wisdom and caution for people. So let me ask you this. What does the term social equity mean to you?
It's justice. It's people that have been affected by the war on drugs, communities that have been affected by the war on drugs, people that have been, affected in different ways, lack of education, lack of resources, right? It goes beyond just drugs to me. It goes to human rights. A lot of people where I came from, we don't even, like things that, like, when I go back to where I used to, come from, it's the lack of education. It's the lack of understanding our rights and the ability to dream bigger. We couldn't dream bigger. We couldn't fathom being in these rooms because it seemed like a like it's not realistic for us, right? And when I look at what social equity can do within and what the cannabis is doing, and the initiative of social equity is changing the wealth gap, is the community holistically understanding that what we were wrong for a lot of things, and how do we rewrite this wrong? And by rewriting this wrong is giving these people that have been unfairly treated the opportunity to create generational wealth. Because by creating wealth within our community, we then hire more people within our community. We then show a different narrative of our community. And a lot of times when I'm in rooms, people, and you just look at my background, getting arrested at 13, I took a different path. Most people go to college. I didn't take that path. I took a different path of actually starting my business right away and showing that, hey, look, we're very intelligent. We can be in this room. We do understand how to structure a business if we were given the opportunity to. And the thing is, too, I learned that a lot of these people outside of social equity we're scared, like we don't feel like we're good enough in certain instances. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I had something called the imposter syndrome. And I'm not sure if anybody ever had that, but the imposter syndrome is just essentially, even though we were gaining all this like momentum, all this success, and we were doing this, it was like, I didn't feel like, hey, am I supposed to be in this room? I've never been told that I have the right to be in this room or lobby senators or state representatives or push agendas or laws over. So social equity is giving people hope and changing the wealth gap.
Thank you. Yeah. And at 13, having a charge like that, I'm sure for a lot of young men they can either take, 2 paths, and it puts the odds definitely not in their favor, especially when you're just told that, you're a criminal for a plant. But, what would you say is your number one thing that really just keeps your fire going to keep pushing for the cause and for social equity?
It's not a race, it's a marathon. What keeps me going is understanding that, it's small incremental wins, right? That would lead to bigger wins. And I take it at that and we don't stop, yeah, we win this. Okay, let's go to the next one. It's not over yet. There's still people in jail, right? So yes, we're doing this. Yes, we're speaking here. Yes, that's great. Round of applause. It's not over yet. We still got to get more people out of jail. We still got to create more wealth. And that's what keeps me going, and understanding that I don't know it all, like the understand that I don't, and being able to seek help, understanding that, it's okay not to be the smartest. Like, I think that a lot of people in our community, they want to be the smartest, or we're taught we should know it all. You don't have to know it all. And what keeps me going is just the ability to learn and change people's lives.
Thank you.
I love that.
We love a humble king. And yeah, you seem very down to earth, which I appreciate. I'm sure we all do. We're all still learning together, right? And we're pushing forward on this marathon. So I know Khadijah now has some questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, I want to say that not only am I impressed, or let me just say this, I am overly impressed with what you've been able to accomplish in the cannabis industry and your stick-to-itness, because let me tell you something, when I lost everything in 2016 coming in this industry in 2014 and lost literally everything, went through a divorce, went through a whole team of people, literally I could have crawled and rolled up into a fetal position, and just given up. But it does take that stick-to-itness. And so I'm like overly impressed with you on that. So here's my question for you, Seun. As a Black man in the cannabis industry, do you still have the same concerns with law enforcement that you did when you were in the Black market?
I'm just more educated and I understand my rights. I don't do none of that. Peace and love. But I'm gonna call my attorney. We're gonna settle this.
That's right. I like that. See, I love that. So I'm like you. I believe that we have to re-educate our communities because we've been educated with lies for such a long time that a lot of us are very confused as to what to believe. And so re-educating our communities is really important. So what advice would you give people interested in starting their own cannabis dispensary?
Man, don't rely on nobody. Rely on yourself. If you want it, go get it. Ain't nobody gonna give you nothing. And I'm just coming from the heart. Like, this is from the heart, because I see a lot of people talking about they want to be in this cannabis industry. And don't rely on nobody. Like, put in the work, put in the time. And that's gonna speak for yourself. Even like it took me 7 years to get to where I'm at right now. Like, I used to sleep in my shop. I couldn't even afford food. I used to eat ramen noodles. I told them I was a chef. You know, like,
I know that's right.
I mean, like, I was a chef with it. I had, like, those plug-in slow stove. I was chefing it up.
I know that's right.
Like, I can't afford it. I said, that's cool. I can't. That don't mean I can't in the future.
That's right.
Where every bruises became lessons. It gave me more confidence. Like, oh man, I can make it through. Khadijah talking about, look, I lost the same time like 2 years ago because of the cannabis industry. My account was frozen. We had $0. Account was frozen because there was a state investigation. Had a whole state investigation. We had a multi-million-dollar deal, blah, blah, blah. We got a mill from it. That caused some stuff to happen where they wanted to see if I truly owned my company, which I did. So I had nothing to hide. But they had to create a whole new department. Took them a couple of months to write the regulation. Took them a couple of months to hire the right people. Took them a couple of months to do the investigation. While, boom, I got a divorce. My ex didn't believe that, hey, man, this is Chops ain't gonna ever open.
Wow.
Of course. You get what I'm saying? Because just the whole process of, like, man, it's been years. We're expanding. We had a property in Oregon. We leased it out. The landlord she was getting older, so she wants to sell her building. Guess what? We're still federally illegal. So everybody that wanted to buy the building went to the bank, and the bank was going to give them money, found out there was a cannabis business, said no. When it was our time to renew our lease, landlord refused, even though after we spent a lot of time, money, effort doing exactly what she told us to do. Now, I couldn't take it personal. Boom, we had about 30 to 60 days, state law, to move everything to a new location. And if y'all don't know anything about Oregon, Oregon is an oversaturated market. It's dispensary in at every corner. And to find real estate is the hardest and trickiest thing to do in this industry. So that became another challenge. And we had everybody, it was a hard thing for me, And at that time, we're still applying in the state of Massachusetts. I still have properties out there and doing all this negotiating purchase and sales agreement. At the end of the day, look, everybody got a sob story. Everybody going through. I'm going to be 100, right? Everybody's going through something. You can't be like your problem is greater than anybody. Nah, man, everybody got problems.
That's right. Absolutely. It's just really how you handle those problems, right? Like you said, you cannot take it personally, right?
Look, I promise you, like my ex, I wish her the best. I'm happy. I'm good. It was the hardest times in my life. You get what I'm saying? Like, and I had to fight for custody of my daughter because I travel so much. It was just a lot of things on a personal level. And I still had to go to work.
Yeah, still had to get up.
I still had to get up and work. So and
you still had to smile when you didn't feel like smiling. Am I
right? In those meetings, still have to talk to investors, still have to be strong. So what I'm I'm articulating, and I'm going deeper into my personal life to show people, like, nothing is given.
That's right.
Everything It's going to take hard work. It's going to take you crying. It's going to take you losing people that you don't want to lose to get somewhere that you've never experienced or never been, because none of my family ever experienced what I'm experiencing right now. I don't work for money. I work for freedom. Yeah, it took me 7 years. Yes, it took me 7 years of grinding, crying, and just working hard. But I'm reaping the fruit of my labor.
That's right.
Little by little. I'm not like, there's always more I can do, but now more than ever before, I'm seeing that manifestation of my hard work, of my sweat, of my tears that I really put into my business. And that's why I tell people that's people like you humble. I said, have you been through what I've been through?
Yeah, right.
If you
But you know what? But most people don't realize that you can't reap and sow in the same season. You just can't reap and sow in the same. Every now and again, you'll get a little win, you'll get a little hit there, a little. No, when you are, because you were in your sowing season, and sometimes in your sowing season, you're gonna go through some things, but you still have to be sowing. And now you're in your reaping season where all of your hard work is now paying you off.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and right now we're going out to raise capital, and one advice I would give people is, best time to raise capital is when you have capital. Don't ever raise out of desperation. Don't ever. You make
it come across in your voice.
Yeah, it comes across in your voice. Like for us, like when I'm in those rooms, whether you give me money, you don't give me money, I really don't care. I'm gonna invite you to our grand opening. We're gonna get the stores open. It's just more like my work ethic. My integrity.
Mindset.
My mindset. I've started my company with like credit cards and $50,000 accumulating credit cards. And my personal cash. So I'm gonna make it happen. I really feel like I feel like we're growing. We're punching above our weight class, right? So I tell people we have big, hairy, audacious goals. It's like, why not dare to, dream of dreams that scares and terrify you? And even if you fail, that you as a person, your evolution is beautiful. You become more beautiful. You learn more. You think differently. So it's been. I love it. Once again, Khadijah, I appreciate you having me on here. So I gave y'all the the real me.
But you know what? And that's exactly who we were looking to meet, right? The real you. Yeah. But you always show up as the real, authentic you. So I appreciate that. So are you going to be speaking at any conferences or events anytime this year where, we can actually support you and get others to support you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's solidified yet, but MJ BizCon, I know we're looking at something there, and I believe hopefully we're going to sign up to speak at NCIA, one of the conferences that's coming up. I'm super excited for that one.
Nice.
It should be fun. If I have anything else coming up, I'll definitely shoot you an email. We're going to have a few grand opening before the end of this year. I'm going to send y'all some invites. Hopefully y'all come out there. I tell people we're just, we come from the mud. Like we're just really scrappy individuals that, didn't come from us. We're not saying we're this and that. We're just humble people working hard to build a great organization that we can look at and be very proud of. We might not be as big as a lot of these other organizations. We're not claiming to be. We're just saying, look, man, if you come to my territory, I'm gonna work harder than you. Like you stay with me, I'm just like, look, I'm right.
I love that.
Right? So it's peace and love, but I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna do things with integrity. I don't gotta fake nothing. I don't gotta act like something. I'm just a real person that worked hard, came from nothing, and I'm just ready to, show people that you can come from nothing and be something.
That's right. You absolutely can. And you said something earlier, and I'm going to wrap it up in just a second, but you said something earlier about losing people. I'm a firm believer that you don't lose people. You just drop them off where they need to be so you can get where you're going.
Absolutely.
So here's my last question for you. So how can people actually reach out to you online? How can they find you on social media and all this other stuff?
You can find me on Cannabis on all social media platform. I'm Nigerian, so I combine Cannabis is like Kabiyesi, and that means king where I'm from, and cannabis. So I kind of combined them together to be the cannabis king. Since I'm the youngest African American, then I didn't get no support. Nobody gave me money. So when I say I'm the cannabis king, that means that I did it with no help. Nobody gave me nothing, and I just hustle. So that's why I feel the way I feel. So anybody that makes more money than me, good for you. But you ain't come from where I came from. You ain't do what I did. So I'm gonna stand on what I stand on. Stay up. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you being on the Cannabis Minority Report with us, and would love to have you back on again. So we'll be right back right after these messages. Thanks again.
What's up? I'm Vince, and this is NCIA's Industry Buzz. As a trade association, NCIA has a political action committee, the NCIA PAC, that collects and contributes funds to candidates that support cannabis reform in DC. The NCIA PAC helps support our champions and politicians that will fight for us on Capitol Hill, and it enables them to continue to fight for our industry. Think of it like this. Your support for the NCIA PAC lets us support elected officials who support the cannabis industry, and it's imperative that they continue to be re-elected. You can learn more on our mobile app and at thecannabisindustry.org.
I mean, it has been a great day today with our special guest, Seun Adedeji, and from Elev8, you guys. If you don't know about him, you better look him up. For those of you out there who just don't know where to go, what to do, how to do it, or don't feel like you can get it done, just look at his example. I'm telling you, if he can do it, anybody can do it. He has a heartfelt story, and it keeps him humble, and we appreciate that. So just for some local announcements and just to wrap it up, the mission of the DEI committee is to educate, advocate, engage, and empower the community of cannabis and its members by cultivating partnerships with other nonprofit organizations with similar goals, providing resources that creates and sustains an environment that is not only inclusive, but equitable and diverse. We are committed to building a culture that respects our members and celebrates their contributions as we work together to strengthen all communities in the cannabis space. Special shout out to our sponsors of the DEI program, and that's Tahoe Wellness Center as well as Copper State Farms. And don't forget, everybody, that the NCIA's webinar series and its Midwest Cannabis Business Conference takes place September 22nd and 23rd in Detroit, Michigan. Yes, I will be there. For more information, go to MidwestCannabisBusinessConference.com. And then don't forget about our Eastern Cannabis Business Conference. That takes place December 7th and 8th in Baltimore, Maryland. And yes, your girl will be there too. So for more information about that, go to EasternCannabisBusinessConference.com. And then finally, our Cannabis Business Summit takes place December 15th through the 17th in San Francisco, California. And no, I won't be there, but you will be there. So for more information, go to the CannabisBusinessSummit.com. We'd like to thank our special guests and our co-hosts as well for being with us. And thank you for our audience for tuning in for us. Don't forget to download the NCIA's mobile app. If you have anyone that you think that we should be interviewing, reach out to Alexis Olive of OliveYou Media, or reach out to me, Khadijah Adams of Girl Get That Money at info@khadijahadams.com. Until then, peace, love, and hippie stuff.
NCIA's Cannabis Minority Report is a product of the National Cannabis Industry Association and NCIA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We are hosted every week by Khadijah Adams. Our executive producers are Aaron Smith and Vince Chandler. We are directed by Vince Chandler and produced by Bethany Moore and Alexis Olive. Please, please, please find out everything you can about the growing and equitable cannabis industry at thecannabisindustry.org.